Hello all. This is a demo of how the end-to-end deployment of a vSphere edge and a vSphere template using the UI. Starting at the home screen over here, go to the Horizon Edges section. I'll click on Add. It opens up the stepper. The first step is nothing, just to get some requirements about vSphere and Horizon Edge VM that I'll need to deploy. So I'm going to confirm those, that I've met those requirements. Click on Next. I'll give this a name. You can choose to give a description too. I'm just going to skip that. The capacity provider supports all the different types that vSphere today supports. This is AVS, GCVE, or VMC, stuff like that. The vCenter that I have is in our own Omnissa data center, so I'm going to choose private data center. For the location, I'm just going to start typing a few letters. This is Wenatchee, and hence it pops up. I'm going to select that. For the vCenter URL, you can either give an IP or a FQDN. I'm going to add the FQDN over here. And then I'm going to get the username and the password. And then I'm going to add the thumbprint. This is the SSL thumbprint for the vCenter endpoint. So I'm going to add that. I'm going to add that. Click on Next. Here you can create a new site or use an existing one. I'll choose to use an existing one. Click on Next. Here you can give the FQDN of the Edge VM. So I'm just going to add that and keep the other options default. Click Next. This will start the creation of the resources for the Edge deployment in our cloud control plane. This takes about a minute or so. So we'll wait for that to complete. I do want to show you the screen, how it comes up. So bear with me over here. Okay, so the cloud resources are created, it pops out, then goes to the next step, which basically says you go ahead and download the Edge VM OVA. I have already downloaded it, so I'm not going to download it again, but I'll just click on this download link to show what happens. So you basically get a pop-up to download the OVA. As I said, I have already downloaded it, so I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to click Next. And now this gives me the pairing code, and it also shows the pairing status. The pairing code is something that I'll need to enter when I'm deploying the Edge VM, and hence I will start with that process. Okay, now we are at the vCenter, and let me copy the URL that I need to deploy this. So, okay, I'm gonna start the deploy OVF. Okay, gonna hit next. Gonna say yes over here. Okay, I'm going to then give it a name. I'm gonna use the same name that I gave in the cloud. This is just for my reference. You can give any name you want. Okay, select where this goes. Same thing here. Okay, that's right. And I'm going to use vSAN data store for this. Click next. I'm going to select the network to which the Edge VM connects to, which is my management network in this case. And then I need to enter a few details. So first I'll enter the root password. And now this is where I need to enter the pairing code. So I'll go back to the universal console, copy the pairing code, and enter it here. The rest of these items I'll leave it default. There is the ability to give a proxy. I'm not using a proxy here, so I'm going to leave it empty. I need to enter all the networking details for this edge VM. So let me quickly start entering that. So the default gateway is this. The DNS domain name is the same as the FQDN that we provided. So I'm going to copy that and put it here. The domain search path, I'm going to give it as testlabs.net. The domain name servers. Let me add those. Okay, then IP address for the VM itself. And finally, the net mask. Okay, I'm gonna click next now. Just going to validate everything came across as I was expecting. Yeah, all of this does look good. So I'm going to hit click finish. This actually starts the import of the OVF package over here and the deployment of the OVF template. This will take about, depending on the bandwidth and everything, it takes anywhere from maybe 5 to 10 minutes. So at this point, I'm going to pause and we'll resume once this OVF deployment completes. Okay, so now we have the deployment of the VM complete. The VM's here. I'm going to power on this VM so it can start setting up. I'll let it boot. At the same time, I'll go to this UI and I'm going to click on finish. This is not going to be it's remain in the not paired state till the VM is fully booted and all connected to the cloud control plane and everything. So we don't need to wait for that over here because we will see that status in the next screen that I'll show. So I'm going to click finish over here. It provides this summary over here. What it says is that, hey, you've finished creating the cloud components of your Horizon Edge. So now you need to go and deploy the VM in vSphere, which we already did. And once that comes up, connects to the cloud successfully, it will go into the ready state. And then once it goes into ready state, you need to then go and create the unified access gateway so that it can be you can basically have the UAG cluster basically to do your connects. So I'm going to click OK over here. Okay, and this is the edge that we just deployed. It is the status is deploying. The UAG shows as not configured, and the edge gateway status is shown as creating. So let me just click into this, and yes, so you'll see the connective status is still not ready, um, uh, and same thing for the provider. So let's go back over here. Okay, the VM has booted. I'm again going to pause the recording and then we'll take it back up once the status over here goes ready. Okay, so we are back here. We can see that our provider health is showing okay. We have the deployment status for the edge gateway ready. Connected status connected. I'm going to go back here. Again, you can see the status is connected. UAG is not configured because we've not kicked it off yet. And Horizon Edge Gateway was connected. Same over here. You will have a new provider, which is a vSphere provider. And if you see the details, it gives you the details of everything that we entered. Okay, so going back to the edges, and I'll click back on the edge over here. What we are going to trigger now is the UAG deployment. And Okay. So we are seeing this, and the reason this is that we do not have the data from the edge with information about the vCenter inventory has still not synced with the cloud. So for that to happen, it can take up to 15 minutes. So we'll wait for that to happen before we can kick this off. I wanted to show this error message that we display over here, and hence I hurried this up a little, but we will have to wait till the data gets synced. So I'm going to pause the recording again, and we'll come back to deploying the UAG once 15 minutes have passed. Okay, so around 15 minutes have passed now. We'll attempt adding the unified access gateway again. So as you see, this time we do not see the error message anymore, and we can start adding the UAGs. So let me start putting in the data for that. The name is I'm just going to continue with the convention that I've been following. 2 gateways is the minimum. You can go up to 10 or more. This is the provider that we are using. Number of adapters, you can have 1, 2, or 3. In our case, we are going to use 1. You can do it with static IPs or with DHCP IPs. In the infrastructure for this that we are using is set up for static IP, so I'm going to stick to that. This is the UAG FQDN that we need to use. So let me add that. The DNS servers we need to provide that the UAG needs to talk to. So we'll do that. And let me just add a comma. Then the DNS search domain, again, we'll use testlabs.net. And I'll add the default gateway too. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Okay, so click next. Now these are the resources which have been queried by the edge on the vCenter and then sent to the cloud. We have a service in the cloud called Infra vSphere Discovery Service, which then takes this data and allows us to show that in Astro. So I'll select the data center, the cluster, the resource pool. In this case, we'll go to management VMs. The data store where we want to deploy the UAGs, we'll select to vSAN data store, and the VM folder, which again, we'll select as management VMs. Okay, the certificate type is a PEM type. You need to upload it. So I'm going to browse and upload the certificate for that. And then the image is the UAG image. Now this is something that I'm using from our repo that we provide. The customer can choose to download it somewhere internally and then provide that HTTPS location too. So for that, I'm going to continue with no, not this one. Let me grab the right one. Okay, and then I'm going to click next. Here, the port group, I'll select the port group this goes on. The IP range or CIDR, this can be anything that it can be either in the CIDR format or in this range format. I'm going to enter the IPs in the range format. Sorry, in the CIDR format for this. So let me get that IP CIDR. And the net mask is going to be gateway, we just entered it above. So I'm going let me grab that again. And the route is an optional route. This is just to make sure that based on the networking in the customer's environment, they can choose to add a route. In our case, the networking is simple of our infrastructure, so there's no need to add a route. I'll go ahead and click save. What this does is this triggers the deployment of the UAG. So the status goes into pending, and these are the details of the UAG that we show. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording over here. Because as you can see over here, the UAGs are being deployed. This is the first UAG being deployed in the cluster. There'll be 2 that'll get deployed. It'll take some time. So I'll pause the recording and then I'll come back to it once the UAG deployment is done. Okay, so the 2 UAGs that we want to deploy have been deployed. This is the first one. This is the second one. And as you can see over here, the UAG is also being shown in ready state. If you click on this, it will show you the DMZ IP and the version for the UAG2 over here. So with that, the edge components, which is basically the VM and the edge VM and the UAG is complete. We will move on to the other resources, starting with images. So now you can add an image, a vSphere image. I will give it a name as VDI, or rather Win11 VDI. I'll keep the default for now. Image source is vSphere. Now, image details over here is again the same thing. We've taken all the VMs which have either a snapshot or a template on the vCenter, and we are exposing them into the cloud through the discovery service. So in this case, the GPU type is none. So I'm going to select it as none. I'm creating a VDI image. So I'm going to use select single session, and I'm going to create an instant clone pool out of it. So I'm going to create snapshot, and the snapshot that I'll be selecting is going to, the VM that I'll be selecting is this with the HAI build that's installed on it. So this is a snapshot that I want to select. And then I have to provide the local admin credentials for this. So I'll be providing that. Okay, I'm going to add this image. Okay, the image is now added in our catalog, which is over here. The image version is here, and you have the details about it over here. So now I can use this image to create a template. So I'll go to pools. I'll say start. Let's create a vSphere pool. The pool name I'll give, since I'm going to create an instant clone pool, I'll give Win11 VDI IIC. Let's create a floating single session pool, instant clone, as I said. We will use same site edge provider. Now this is I'll come to this again, but we've allowed the capability for the admin to create a pool either using a VM that they have prepped and kept ready on the vCenter directly, or by registering the VM as an image. And this is basically keeping in line with what customers who are accustomed to using vSphere capacity with Horizon Enterprise will identify with. So I'm going, in this case, I'll use image catalog. That's Win11 VDI is the image we just created. This is the version. I'll confirm. I can choose to create a spare policy, but I'll just go all at once for now. Again, this is the same thing. I get to select where all the VMs will go. So let's select the cluster, resource pool, data store, and then finally networks. Now this UI is the same as someone coming from Horizon Enterprise would expect. So makes it easier for them. Click on desktop, click save. So that's the network. Let's give it 2 eCPUs and 4 GB. This is fine. The preferred domain site, I will give a preferred. So this is specifically done for instant clone VMs, where we want to give the instant clone engine um, which domain controller to use. So I will say preferred domain controller, and I will give that domain controller name over here. So there we go. And then as a prefix, I'll again do, let's see, VDI, IC, hyphen. This is a desktop admin username. I'm sorry. And I will click save. Now, I will not add this to a pull group. I'll just click finish over here for now. The template creation has moved on to say expanding. And as you can see over here on the vCenter, it has started creating and prepping the VM for the instant clone pool that we just created. And the desktops will come in this, so we'll wait for that to show up once it's created. I will also, as I said, I wanted to show the other method of creating a pool. So I will go back to that. I'll create vSphere. I'll call this VDI vSphere source. And again, floating instant clone. Now this time I will use it as the vCenter directly to use from the vCenter. In fact, I can even believe I can do this because we have, we have a template. Okay, so this time I'll change it up a little. I will do VDI, or rather, 111 VDI, a full clone pool. So I'll say dedicated, full clone. Again, for one thing I forgot to explain, with options are dedicated, floating, and multi-session. With dedicated, you can do full clone. You can do full clone with dedicated and multi-session, and you can do instant clone with floating and multi-session. You cannot do full clone with floating at this point. So we'll go back, and this time I'll say, okay, pick the VM directly from vCenter. So in case of full clones, we need to pick template VMs. But what I mean by template VMs is that you prep the VM and then convert it into a template format in vSphere itself. So that's what this is. So I'll pick that. I will say, let me pick this. I'll confirm. Again, I'll just do all at once, one VM. Just repeat the same process. Sorry, desktops. ESAN. And again, use the desktop network. Okay, let's give it again 2 eCPU, 4 GB. This is the domain, and we are using the same custom. We use customization specs on in terms of for full clones, which is the vSphere technology for basically sysprep and joining to domain. So we are using that. And then let me just do VDI FC over here, not GPU. Can VRA. Okay, so let me click save over here again. I'll not add it to a pool group. And here we have the two pools provisioning. Let's see where we are. Okay, so the priming of the instant clone is going on. We have the CP template VM that gets created, then the CP replica gets created. And once this finishes, we'll get a VM created. So we'll give that a little bit more time. Under the folder structure, you'll have the templates created inside each of these folders, and that's where they will show up. So I'll just wanted to show that. Yeah, let's wait over here. So it's going as it's going on. Okay. As you can see, this has also triggered the full clone VM creation, which is from the full clone template that we had just selected. Okay. I'm going to pause for now to wait. So one thing to note, the instant clone VMs take a little bit more time only in the start when the priming needs to happen. Once the image has been primed, the VMs get created very rapidly. So that is just one thing to note. Here we can see that the FC VM has already been created. It's going on. And there we go. The ICVM also got created. And if we look inside over here, look at the VMs. We are still waiting for the agent status to come available, but the VM is over here, says showing status powered on. And in about a few seconds, I would say, it's about 30 seconds or so, we will see this agent status also go available. So okay, wait on that. So just to show the two VMs over here in the inventory, these are the two that we created, the IC and the FC, one from the full clone template and one from the instant clone snapshot. Oh, sorry, this is FCVM. That's still getting created. Let's look at the IC. There we go. Agent status available, location available. We have the agent version. It's all done. We're just waiting for the final messages to be delivered to the control plane so that this will be marked as provisioned. So this will just wait for a few more seconds for that. Same time, yeah, this VM is getting sysprepped, as you can see over here. This will take some time. I'll pause, I'll stop the recording as soon as the IC template becomes available. This takes anywhere from 15 minutes to 20, close to 15 minutes to finish. So I will not spend time on that. But I just wanted to show how the full clone template is also created. Hence, I kicked it off. Okay, and there we go. We have the instant clone pool ready. Since that is ready, the VM is all, as I say, is already available, ready to be provisioned. I'm ready to be basically have a session too. And with this, I will end this demo. Thank you, and hope this was informative.